because customer obsession is true for all.
We're talking about women in technology, and like I face this when we talk about women in media, or we talk about women reporting war or conflict, and a part of me is like, I don't want that prefix. A part of me in my 50s is that prefix has been part of my journey.
Gender as an identity and in the workplace and difficulties that come with it are very much part of the journey, and one has to live with it.
Women are dropping out of the workforce. Highly trained, highly accomplished women, because my phrase for it is, we have trapped women in chains of gold.
We have a responsibility as society for all these women who are stepping out and doing things outside the comfort zone of the first 20 years of their life.
I think this is going to be a fascinating conversation, because our guest today has actually had a varied set of professional experiences. You've been in 5 different professional experiences before your current role at Amazon Pay. Was that deliberate? Was that accidental? Do choices that women make just happen for them, or maybe even choices that men make?
So I think hey, first of all, thanks for having me here. This is an amazing platform, and how amazing to see so many people sitting here listening to women in technology as a topic. So thanks for being here. It's an interesting question you're asking, and I think we're a result of the choices we make along the way. But I don't think every choice is made with some end destination in sight. And very often, I think for me, I've made the decisions at a point of time, keeping things in mind in front of me, what are my choices?
Yeah.
And what was exciting at that point of time. It so happened that I've now worked 15 years in FMCG, in telecom, in media, and now in payments, right? So one often wonders what's common between things, right? And for me, what's common is just that they're all serving consumers, and they're businesses which keep consumer needs in the center. So yeah, I mean, I don't think I made choices thinking that I'm going to do 5 industries or 5 companies. I found this common red line or thread between them, which is first principle. The same first principles apply, because customer obsession is true for all. These are great organizations to work for, and I will learn something new in all of them. So
how difficult was it to break into any of these spaces, and were some less welcoming of women than others?
See, I started my journey 26 years ago.
Yeah.
I was like the first woman sales manager in Uttar Pradesh. So I think everyone was trying 25, 26 years to try and welcome women into the corporate world, and some organizations more so than others. In the last 25 years, at least the places I've been in, I've seen organizations become very open to women. In fact, they all have an agenda for diversity. They want to have women both at entry levels as well as leadership levels. But the industry that you're in does matter, because some industries and some jobs they say are women's jobs. Like they say advertising and marketing are women's jobs. And I used to keep saying, I'm doing this job despite the fact that I'm a woman, and not because I'm a woman.
Yeah.
So, yes, some industries are more male-dominated because women have entered some industries earlier, but I think that is equalizing as we go.
What do you remember as being your toughest professional moment, and how did you emerge from it?
My toughest professional moment was when I decided to step out of a really tough interface with a senior. And I decided after 4.5 years in some organization that this isn't working for me.
But it took you 4.5 years.
I mean, I knew it wasn't working, but I felt like I was climbing Mount Everest and I'll get there. I actually used to say this to my friends and family that, this is my Everest. I will climb it, I will get to the top.
And then I'll say never again.
Yeah, and then I'll say that, it was all worth it.
Yeah.
But somewhere along the way, maybe at the Hillary Cliff, I decided that I wasn't going to make it. And then mutually separated, sat out for 8 months.
Without working?
Without working. for the first time in 24 years. I hadn't done that when I had 2 children. I hadn't done it when there was other challenges in the family.
So why did you do it then?
I won't say it was entirely out of choice. It was just that I felt like it wasn't giving enough to me, and what I was giving to it was way more. So, and the reason I'm introspecting here is because these are really tough choices, and sometimes as we are taught to just stay the course, just put in 1 extra hour, or, you know, just put your head down and keep working. That decision was a hard one.
Yeah.
But a good one. Like, it gave me a lot of introspection time. It also told me that I'm a big organization person. I want to take businesses from 100 to 1,000. I'm probably a person who likes to give structure to organizations. And I also realized that I wanted to work in a new age industry.
Yeah.
So that discovery got me to Amazon Pay.
So I want to come to the industry, but just another question about this interface. Was that interface depleting for you because you were female and you were being treated as such, or was it irrespective of gender?
It's really hard to separate.
Yeah,
it is. And I think, you know, sometimes we speak of gender as
very neat and clean, and you know exactly
no,
where
as
it
if it
begins
exists outside of us. It's
That's
a bit
right.
like, you know, being short is a part of my identity, and so is being a woman.
Yeah.
I can't separate those out. So my experience, would it have been different for a man? Who knows? It was my experience.
No, but the reason I ask you this is we're talking about women in technology. And like I face this when we talk about women in media, or we talk about women reporting war or conflict. And a part of me is like, I don't want that prefix. A part of me in my 50s is that prefix has been part of my journey. And if you took that prefix away from me, I would have had it easier. It would have been different in some ways. So that constant battle within yourself, do you degender yourself? Do you gender yourself? I mean, have you...
That's a very interesting question, and one that I've pondered enough in my life. So I'll give you 2 examples. I was at Vodafone, and the global CEO was very diversity focused. And I asked him this question saying, you know, you're putting women in this spotlight.
Yeah.
And the spotlight makes us feel like we're different.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes special, but also as if we have to do something different and something more than what other people have to do.
But don't we?
We have to do more, but it doesn't mean we have to deliver more.
No, we have to work harder.
We have to work harder to deliver the same.
Correct.
We have to deal with a different set of environments. His answer to me was, yes, I don't disagree with anything, but you are blazing a trail, and for a long time, the women who will come into the corporate world will continue to blaze this trail. So maybe you're the tip of the spear, you will create a hole, some 10 more people will follow. They'll all feel like they're in the spotlight. And that spotlight is necessary because only then does the spotlight grow. Maybe it will become 50-50 at some point of time. So in that sense, gender as an identity and in the workplace and difficulties that come with it are very much part of the journey, and one has to live with it. And like I said, I've always told people that I'm here despite the fact that I'm a woman, not because I am one. Sometimes you feel like people are given jobs because, oh, I want a diversity candidate, or I want a girl or a woman in this job. But I feel like no one's going to put an ineffective person in a job. And you don't last if you're not going to do a good job. So you may have worked very hard to get there. You'll still have to deliver what you have to deliver.
But you know, we were talking earlier before you came about this as well. Enabling environments today for equity, the conversation needs to go a bit deeper in the sense that we keep talking about work as if it's separate from home. I think I was saying this earlier, you take your home to your work and you take your work to your home, and that's just the way it is. Now, if that's just the way it is for women, it's also that way for men. So if we want our generation of men to be equal parents, to be hands-on dads, to sometimes be single dads, right? To do their share of the PTA meetings, then they are also entitled to the flexi hours or the creche or the family leave that women get. But have we reached that mindset? Have we embraced that? Are we too caught in an old version of enabling environments?
I think it's a continuum. And yes, we're reaching there. So, I mean, some organizations and like Amazon that we work for do have leave for, similar leave for men and women. They have childcare leave, they have paternity leave. We have the ability to take a break, whether you're a man or a woman. So I think a certain amount of reaching parity Like what they say, equal opportunity is happening.
Yeah.
Is it happening in a large scale? I think that, like I said, it's a continuum. Some people will form like the early adopters and some others will follow. But the larger problem is a societal mindset, right? I think I've always believed that sons of working moms, wives of working mothers, husbands of working mothers,
yeah.
they tend to be greater allies of this.
100%,
Yeah.
100%.
And in that allyship, they create an environment which is more equal opportunity for men and for women. Not just for women, but also this ability to say, my kid is sick. I have a team member who messaged me in the morning
Yeah.
saying he's got 2 young children, and every time his kid is sick, he's the one who takes leave. And I never asked the question of why are you taking leave, why can't your wife take care of it? It's the same way that it shouldn't be asked of the woman or expected
That's
of
right.
a woman. I think when you reach that place is where it begins to become
And where it's a
equal.
little more organic.
Where it's more organic.
But let's take you back to how this all starts for you. When you're starting out, do you face problems?
Yeah, of course. And I mean, I started, like I said, at a time when,
Yeah, but the
there
sales
weren't-
manager role
yeah,
in
yeah,
UP,
that-
where are you in UP? What happens? Tell us more.
That's very interesting. So I started off as a management trainee in Andhra Pradesh, actually.
Ah.
I didn't know the language. I mean, I'm married to an Andhraite now. I didn't know anything about
Yeah.
Andhra at that time. And when I went there, the experiences that I had are, I mean, worth writing a book about. But
Yeah.
interestingly, what I came across was intrigue, curiosity, sometimes disbelief that there's a woman on the like doing sales. I've been asked questions like, "Can't your father afford to feed you?"
What do you mean? Why were you asked that?
Because why are you on the street selling soap? I was with Unilever. I was selling soap. So why are you in the wholesale market selling soap? Down to one interesting experience in a really small town in Andhra Pradesh called Miryalguda, where I was breaking for lunch while the salesman went for lunch home.
Yeah.
So I sat in a restaurant and, they had these booths like trains. I don't know whether you've seen them. They're
Of
like,
course.
and then they have these
There's
curtains
this
that
little
close.
yeah.
So this guy came and he put 2 glasses of water in front of me, closed the curtain and went away. So like 7 minutes later, I was like, where is this guy? And I peeped out and he looked at me and said, "Gents?" So I was like, no, I don't want gents. I want
Yeah.
food. So he says, "Gents?" Then I realized he was asking me that, no gents are coming to eat with you? So then I said, "No gents, only food," and then somehow figured out how to tell him
Yeah.
I wanted to eat. So I'm saying, I think a lot of my experiences at that time were societal,
Right.
not professional.
Right, but societal spills over into professional or no?
It does. It spills over in making you feel like this also will come your way. So maybe the guy wouldn't have had to have this experience. Maybe the experiences they would have is slightly different. Like I remember being in the sales team and my amazing sales force, all men, 40,
Yeah.
mostly 40 plus, trying really hard to take care of me because we would be on the road from Ghaziabad to Meerut to Bareilly to Eta.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't find a single washroom that I could use, right? I mean, these are very practical things. When you start working for blue chip companies, big organizations, technology organizations, you don't even realize that there is a part of the workforce who's still struggling with all this. So I'm going back to a time where there was a man's loo on every floor of the office, but a woman's loo
Yeah.
only on the every second
Yeah.
floor.
Yeah.
So I think those things luckily have passed. Organizations have realized that they have enough representation, so they have to have equal facilities. Now we're talking much greater equality in that sense. But my initial days were full of experiences where it was like, oh my God, what am I doing here? They were full of these, like,
What was like? Do you have that one moment where you were like, "Let me just leave"?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same sales example. I was very young. I was 23 or 24 years old. And at that time, I was still very much out of my parental home into a college, from college to the first
Yeah.
job. And I happened to be in a really, again, very small town where the car broke down, luckily near a motel. And I had to stay in a shady motel on the side of the road in UP. It was 42 degrees, it was really hot, and no air conditioning, just I was literally taking buckets of water, wetting my bed
Yeah.
and sleeping
Yeah,
on it,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And I was sitting inside saying, what have I educated myself for? Like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Right? And there were people walking outside my door, people knocking around on the door. The guy who dropped me, my driver said, don't open the door.
Yeah.
Anything you do, till
Don't
I come
open
in the morning, don't open the door. I didn't know what kind of establishment I was in. So these are, like I said, it's what, I can write a book.
Yeah.
But I think I went through that. It's like a chrysalis. You come out to the other side feeling like you can do anything, right? I mean, we talk a lot about safety. I have to give a lot of kudos to my parents for having not
Corseted you in
corseted
chains.
me
Yeah.
after I did all this. And they were like, okay, I trust you and I trust the organization you're working for. So fine, you can go alone at 5 a.m. in the morning with this fog in the car
Yeah.
to Bareilly or Meerut or whatever. So I think that we have a responsibility as society for all these women who are stepping out and doing things outside the comfort zone of the first 20 years of their life to help them make this journey. And whether it was 26 years ago or it's my children, my daughters are both adults. Even as I send them out into the world, I don't think I am as strong as my parents were. So I have to be stronger. I have to make sure that I'm
I mean, that urge
giving
to
them.
protect.
Yeah, it's
is
very hard to give up.
It's very hard to give up, and it's very unfair to your daughters.
Yeah, it is. And this is a constant discussion we're having, saying it's the same restrictions don't apply to the guys, so why do they apply to us? And I try very hard to have a sense of equality, but you know, the safety, the urge to protect, the desire. So the only thing I tell them is, listen, every parent wants Life 360 or some Find My Phone sort of application to find out where you are. So I want it too. But to come back to what this is doing to organizations is that, see, we are getting girls from all, or women from all walks of life.
This
all
is now at
kinds of
Amazon, is it?
Amazon,
Yeah.
and even other organizations we've been part of, right? From small towns in the country, from big cities, from big colleges, from small colleges. They all have different life experiences, different lived experiences.
Sure.
And as organizations and as leadership, we have to be aware that it's not the same as what we've gone through. So some people are all ready to lean in, raise their hand and say, you know what, I want the next job. Whereas some other women or some other girls are still being diffident, saying, you know, the fact that I'm here itself is good enough. And do I really want to do more? I have so much responsibility at home. I'm not getting equal partnership.
Yeah.
So I'm going back to this question of, is gender important? I think gender is important to say that it's not one mass. It's actually a heterogeneous sort of mass, even all women who are in the world. Apart from education, I don't think their lived experiences are all the same. So organizations and leaders have to realize almost situationally, saying this woman requires this kind of help, whereas another one requires a different kind of
So how do you apply that at Amazon Pay? How do you apply this learning? And what have you had to unlearn?
I think the biggest unlearning for me is that this is not a homogeneous mass. All men are not the same, all women are not the same. We don't all do the same things, we don't all think the same thing. So there is an element of, like I said, this person in my team is very family oriented, wants a break for every family event and takes care of his daughters, and I'm very proud of that. But that doesn't mean I go light on him when I need delivery, right? On the other hand, I have some women in my team who are so driven. They have this thing of, I will manage my life, leave that to me. You tell me what my next career objective is. So for me, the way I deal with it is that I deal with them at an individual level. When I've understood that.
But that needs emotional energy for which
Yeah.
there isn't always time available in a role like yours.
But you know, if you're a leader, you have to have this emotional energy. And if anything, I've had the good fortune of having mentors through my life, male and less female. I didn't have too many female mentors.
Because the
but
space was like that? Or because they wanted
they
leadership
weren't any.
roles?
Like they want women who...
Did you have role models? Was there somebody who influenced you, man or woman?
Yeah, definitely a lot of men. A lot of men that I worked with, a lot of men who were leading my organizations. Like I gave this example of the CEO of Vodafone globally.
Yeah, correct.
Very important.
Yeah.
Nitin Paranjpe at Unity were very important for how I think of work and what is important at work. From a women perspective, I keep saying my mother was my role model. She did her PhD when I was 13 years old.
Dharma.
this too shall pass.
Yes.
It's true, right?
True.
It's like I would write it in big bold letters in my life saying when I'm feeling super happy, I know it'll pass.
Yeah.
When I'm really feeling stressed, it'll pass. And it sounds very jnani, but that's the reality.
So when you're not feeling motivated,
Yeah.
is that what you tell yourself?
Yeah, I do. I mean,
That don't take a decision based on this sentiment?
exactly. Right now, this is just the now. It's not your continuity.
Yeah.
It's not your future. It hasn't even been your past. And I think as you age, as you do more experiences, you can find the spaces where, oh, this happened to you 7 years ago, and now you're okay,
Yeah.
right? So I think I do this for my sister. She's a managing principal in a consulting organization, and she's much younger. And I'm constantly coaching her. So finding a mentor or a coach who's invested in you in some fashion, I think really helps.
And it doesn't have to be the same gender.
It doesn't have to be the same gender at all. I mean, very often my family says my husband is my coach. I mean, we are batchmates. We grew up together. We met when we were very young. But when I'm going through like this traffic snafu that I had,
Yeah.
for calm, I called him.
Yeah.
So I think having a person in your life who can look at your reality from a distance and call you out
Yeah.
for what
Yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah.
feeling.
And call out the
right?
BS.
It's like
Also.
the BS that's going on in your head, right?
Yeah.
It's
Just-
the self-talk.
yeah.
So I've been saying to people that, sometimes you have to stop and stand
Yeah.
in the balcony and watch yourself. It's called
Yeah.
balcony behavior, right?
Yeah.
And my kids have learned it. They'll be throwing a tantrum and they're not
Yeah.
really kids anymore.
Yeah.
But I'll be like, okay, go to the balcony for a while. I'm not dealing with this.
Yeah.
Go to the balcony for a while. I think it helps if someone else is in the balcony with you. And looking down at the problem and saying,
Yeah.
so, I mean, it's not easy. People keep talking about networking as if it's a bad thing. I think for me, networking has been the joy of
What is
working.
networking?
Getting to know people. Just knowing people, getting to know their motivations, having them invested in your career, your success, your life. For me, that's networking. If I get to know people and, the questions you and I are talking about, tell us about each other.
Yes.
And I think that helps to form connections which are lifelong.
Agreed. But women, because of conditioning, are often not out there in the way that men are. We sometimes I don't, but we as a collective come from the mindset that our work will speak for itself. We are worried about appearing too aggressive, ambitious. Again, I'm not. But I'm saying many women are.
But I think that's the stereotype. It's amazing how
You don't think that's the case? You don't think that happens?
I think it happens, but it happens to men also.
Agreed.
Right?
There are kinds of men and
there
there are kinds of women.
I really believe
Yeah.
it because people keep stereotyping women as, oh, they won't raise their hand. And I was like, all the women, I have a really good set of girlfriends
Yeah.
who are all CEOs, CXOs.
And they always raise their hand
they're
first.
all always raising their hand.
Yeah.
So, it's
Yeah.
not like, and we have been the people who've been called bossy as kids or
Correct.
called aggressive as
Correct.
young people.
Correct.
So, and we are friends. It's not, we're not competing.
Yeah.
So I think there are women in there who feel diffident. That's the point I was making. You come from a different environment where you were asked to keep quiet and sit in a corner. You will take some time to lean in and raise your hand. But there are enough people in there who are raising their hand and yet not necessarily getting the opportunities.
Yeah.
So being able to identify the ones who are willing to come out of the comfort zone is the leader's job. That's really important. Being able to see people who are doing a really good job but are holding back because of personality, not because of opportunities, is also the leader's
But you
job.
haven't told me what you'd say to a woman dropping out of the workforce, because that statistically is way more common than a man dropping out of the
That's true.
workforce.
Actually, I'm from one of the IMs and we have a really large community of women from the IMs. And you'll be amazed at how many of them are sitting outside the workforce.
But that's crazy.
That's crazy, right? We all worked so hard to get that
Yeah.
degree, to get into. So I think that conversation has to be judgment free, because it is being made in the cauldron of stress. It's
Yeah.
not like you want to do it. It's just that you can't manage your life or environment at that time. So for me, and I've had these conversations a few times saying, okay, let's say that it's fine to go. So first put the guilt of leaving a job and leaving a career aside. Actually, I keep telling people guilt is the one emotion in our life that we should bury and not
For
feel
men
bad.
and women both.
For men and women both. Because guilt does us no good, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't, regret and guilt have no value in life. It's hindsight. But if you put the guilt aside, I think the question is, you have to really dig deep to say, what do you want? I think half the problem is
We don't know what we
women
want.
don't know what they want. Like, you know, it's funny, the 8 months that I spent at home, I realized that for me, being productive is a really important value. I didn't realize it till the 8 months. So just to give you an example, I've painted furniture, I've done DIY, I've done craft, I've learnt a language. In
Yeah.
those 8 months, I've done consulting, I started learning Kathak, I learned for 5 years. I needed to be productive in that time, while of course looking for what I wanted to do next. That discovery of self and staying in that discomfort of self is necessary. I mean, it sounds like psychobabble, but being able to find what you want to do, for me, I had the clarity of, I will be a terrible mom if I don't work. I've said this to my children when they were...
It is true. I keep telling women, you have to first be happy to be anything else to anybody else.
So my 5-year-old once told her teacher in school, saying, my mother has to work, otherwise she'll be a very bad mommy. She has to go to office. So I say this to people, saying, I know this about myself, and I must say this about my mom as well. My mom, when I was going through these various tough situations
Yeah.
of, I can't manage this, I have
Yeah.
2 children, I have no help, you're not here, you're working. She'd be like, listen, imagine this life without work in it, right? And imagine this life with work and stress in it, and choose.
Work and stress.
Work and stress
every
anytime.
time. Yeah.
So I think that choice is very personal. It's very hard for me to say what I would tell a person. If I realize that the stress is overwhelming you, take a break. It's okay.
Well, why does that stress exist? You see, the point that we're not going deep enough into is that stress exists more for women than it does for men.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Although the reverse patriarchy is that the role of man is provider, key earner. It's not easy for a man to leave a job even if he wants to.
No, you're right. And I think this is a very complex topic. But in the sense that if the woman is leaving because of a structural support system being missing, then I tell people that the one thing you have to do in your life, and that's networking again, you have to create a support system. Like, I lived in Bombay all my life. I have no family in Bombay, none. My in-laws passed away early. My mom's been working till very recently. I couldn't call parents to take care of my kids, right? My network of women friends,
Yeah.
from school, from college, from building, from university, were my
Community.
village,
Yeah.
were my community,
Yeah.
right? And they weren't just my friends, they were also my husband's friends.
Correct.
Right? So I think that is necessary, and if the societal constraints are pulling you down and it's not your choice, I think that solutions exist. You just have to be strong in the choices you make. I have to send my child to a daycare, and it's okay to do that. It's okay if I'm being guilted by the older women in my family. I think so. That's the problem. Women have to be harder and more stronger in their choices than, and men don't have to justify them.
Correct.
And that is societal, right? I think that's the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
I mean, if a man wants to step out and not work, and my husband was doing the same thing for 8-9 months, and he's the one who gave me the strength to take my 8 months.
Yeah.
So I think there is an element of societal differences, judgment differently for men and women. And if a woman is stepping out because she doesn't have a support system, I mean, I keep saying choose your partner carefully. You know, if you're going to have a family, if you're going to have a superstructure, if you're going to have children, please choose your partner carefully. I say this to the working man, I say it to the working woman.
It's true.
It's like, because, you know, this desire to change people, to bring
Mold
them into,
them.
to mold them.
Yeah, all this doesn't happen.
I don't believe it happens. I keep telling mothers of boys, please imagine if this boy was the one you will be married to, and make that, you know, what would
Yeah.
you want there?
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of societal change that needs to happen before women in the corporate world start feeling like, you know, this is as equal a playing field.
So let's end with, how do we go beyond these phrases, these catchphrases that have come to define these conversations? Diversity, inclusion today are not even phrases that everybody agrees on. We live in they become hot potato nomenclatures. Representation, inclusion, leadership, mentorship. What is, if you as a leader, if you were to break this down and say, I want to lead my team in a way where these words actually mean something real, they're not just jargon out of management school, What does it mean for you personally? What does a day in your life look like with all the human dimensions added in, that sometimes you will be irritated, sometimes you will get lost on the way to an event, you will get angry, you will get upset, there'll be something on your mind won't be fully at work, etc., etc. How do you make these words mean something?
So first, I don't think it's about a day-to-day. I think first is structural. I
Yeah.
think the important thing is to say that put your money where your mouth is. Make sure that you are indeed recruiting a diverse team. And I don't mean diverse only in gender, diverse in thought, diverse in which part of the country you're coming from, diverse in backgrounds. So just to give you an example, I lead a team where there's so many people who are all technology, right?
Yeah.
They're all engineers and they're all doing product management, and I'm not an engineer. I've never done this job, never done technology, never done fintech,
Yeah.
never done financial services before,
Yeah.
never done e-commerce before. So,
Yeah.
and yet I'm leading them, right?
Yeah.
So, having diversity of thought and being respectful for that diversity is very important as a leader. So you can't recruit someone who you think will give you a complementary point of view and keep trying to change that person's point of view.
Yeah.
So the leadership responsibility here is structure your team in a manner that it is diverse, but make sure that you show up in a respectful for diversity of thought and a difference of opinion. And it's a tough one to do. I think a lot of the leaders who do it make really good leaders. Like I have very good role models in that sense, and you have to be able to truly listen to what's being said and then make up your mind and and then move forward. On a day-to-day basis, I would say that everyone has off days and on days, etc. But if you're genuinely not genderizing your day-to-day interaction, I think it's fine. What I'm saying, I have no idea if a person blindly tells me my child is unwell, I can't come today. I don't even look at what that person's gender is. Like, fine, this is what you need. You need to be there. If someone raises their hand and says, you know what, I want this job, I'm not looking at their gender and saying, should I promote them because she's a woman or because he's a man. I'm just saying, is this person good enough for this job? I'm looking at their appraisal, their past work. Being blind to gender when you're taking these decisions, I think, is another thing that leaders can do. It's not easy because we are all taught to recognize it.
Yeah.
But I think
And also the new buzzword has become gender friendly, not gender neutral.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I've come from a mindset of neutrality. I think that's enough.
Yeah.
But not everybody thinks like that.
It's a difficult one to say because what does gender friendly mean? I would say people friendly. I keep saying it's human friendly. That human being has a certain requirement. That human being is a certain kind of human being.
Yeah.
It sounds a bit trite, but I think this point of individual leadership, situational leadership, servant leadership is necessary, because what it does is that you treat people, like individual people, not as stereotypes, not as cliches, not as numbers in a 2x2. So when you do that, I think it helps being a better leader. I don't know if women do it more intuitively. I've worked with many men who do it intuitively, and I really
So it's just about the person, not about the gender.
I think it's person and how you develop them.
So let me end by asking you, since you're an IIM alum, what do you think management school got wrong?
What do you mean?
Like, is there something that the class, so, I went to arguably the best journalism school in the world at Columbia in New York. And I can see today that my lived experience, I would challenge some of those things that I was taught in the classroom, because lived experience taught me something that I didn't know till I lived it, right? So textbook teaching and life's teaching are sometimes the same. Sometimes you build on what you learned in the textbook, and sometimes you say, you know what I thought then or what they taught me then, that's not how it happens.
It's an interesting question, because I went back to one of the IIMs for a week course, and I found myself challenging everything that the professors were talking about.
Yeah.
But I think I was challenging the recency of their thought, and not so much the structure of their thought.
Right.
So I felt like what management school does well is giving you superstructures to think in. They allow
Framework
you to
for organizing your thoughts.
Organizing your thoughts, picking up the information and putting them in some sort of, like a structure to consume, to communicate. Let's say they give you like a universal translator language, right? So everyone, and I think that's what fundamentally they're able to do. what I feel like they're not doing enough of, and some are really trying, is being current. Because this world is changing so fast.
Yeah.
And the professor, I mean, I go and meet the professors now, and they're really young. They're younger than me. And I'm looking at the fact that, if you haven't been in the industry and you're coming back and teaching, have you had this experience? So the industry education partnership becomes really critical. And whoever is doing that well is maybe making more strides forward. So there's recognition, like I'm saying, there's recognition that they need to do a lot more. But I don't think the industry has the time to go back and teach.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of that. I think management schools definitely need to be more current, more skill-oriented, more tech-oriented, like, with the...
So from that sales manager who was selling soap in wherever, Meerut or Ghaziabad or Aligarh or wherever, to today at Amazon Pay, what's the one thing that you think is the biggest change? I don't mean mobile phone, AI, whatever, but in like that you couldn't have imagined and that you think is going to change more and more and more, and then one has to be ready for it.
It's a very personal question.
Yeah.
So, I think I'm more secure in who I am.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that comes with age and grey hair and experiences and all that.
Yeah.
But it's also the fact that you feel with time you have lesser to prove about who you are and what you can do. You have more the desire to make a difference because that's what you will leave behind. It might be age related, it could be experience related, but that's where I'm at. I think I got recruited because I was this maybe insecure, overachiever, or very hardworking type A person.
Personality.
I don't think I've changed too much as far as that's concerned, but I think I've reached a place where I'm saying that I'm only as good as the people I'm working with, and again, I'm hearing myself say it, and it sounds like I'm giving like some trite gyan, but the reality is that I can't do it by myself, and it's not about me, it's about the outcomes, it's about what you leave behind, and so I think that's the biggest change. It's not for me alone that I would say.
Great, thank you. That was a great conversation. Let's have a big round of applause, maybe louder at the back. And thank you so much. Great conversation.
That was a lovely conversation. You made me think a lot. So
Thank you.